Is Lloyd Zaim Pirush Kumtois, according to Zeir Pirush, according to the Pirush the Balatoisus, it turns out as niter etzem umkeres riboaniyas, it's not the actual going back by boat is at techocha farzich, is a rebuke, a punishment for itself. Nares is blois moisiv, but this is only adding in the klolodike techocha, in the general rebuke. Fun veheshivcha Mitzrayim. It says that they're going to bring you back to Mitzrayim. Who is going back to Mitzrayim? As this is koilel alam ulifizeh. But according to this, instead of saying boniyos, you should have said lechatchila ve'ishiv Hashem kulchem geimer. He should bring you all back. But not to add it as a new subject. As opposed to the way the Rebbe learns, that boniyos is an independent techocha because there is captivity on the boat itself, the captivity, the shivya, which is on a boat, that's much graver than just going by foot into captivity in Egypt. And then there's the second point that the Pasuk tells us. Bring you back by boat and by the road that I told you that you will no longer see it. The Eibishter is saying. Als wollen sich umkehren kein Mitzrayim durch den Weg, wo sie seinen schon früher durchgegangen. They will go back to Egypt by the route that they have already passed, which means going there durch Midbar Hagodel v'Hanoiro, going through the great, awesome, big desert, which has Nochosh, a snake, and the sort of Akrov and the scorpion, Vitzimoin. But there's no water. So that's going to be the way they're going to go back. So that's a very, very difficult way. We can move on the pashtus, and as self-understood, as the nisim v'chasodim from the erster halicha in midbar, so that on the nisim v'chasodim, we don't have the great miracles and the kindness from the first journey in the midbar, was the farha that Eibishter maftiach given. That's why the Eibishter promised them, as in them derech, that way so you're not gonna see it again this way, because this was a very challenging and impossible way that would be to go there had it not been for the miracles. Is move on der goydel hateichocha in der alicha durch dem derech. So we understand the great rebuke in the going through that way. So basically, as the Rebbe says in Ha'ara 26, they're going to go through two ways. There is going to be a way that in places that they go through the ocean. Then it's going to be boniyos. But the most of the way is going to be b'derech shemat l'tois v'lereisa, which is going to be by way of the midbar. Similar to when they left Mitzrayim, there were both ways. They went through the ocean by Kriyas Yamsuf derech hamidbar. So here they will actually go through, and that's understood, the great rebuke, because we know what the challenges was going through the midbar. Rashi does not need to translate it clearly. Shame that Darfnit Oistaichen, them Godel Aperonius from Veshivcha Hashem Mitzrayim. Just like Rashi, why doesn't Rashi tell you the difficulty of being in the midbar? Because Rashi doesn't translate what is it about going to Egypt in general. What is the Godel Aperonius, the great punishment from Veshivcha Hashem Mitzrayim? But Rashi is Ersh Mefarish given. Rashi already just explained it. That we don't scare a person, but from an item that he's already scared from. So, just like the going back to Egypt is scary for the Yidden because they came from there. Same thing is the road to Mitzrayim. The road to Mitzrayim is by Yidden, by Yidden, that's something that he's scared of. Alpizeh, says the Rebbe Noy Zayin, that man nicht verstehen dem Hemshech in Pirush Rashi of the Weitete Keverte. The following and the flow in Rashi on the later words in the Zelm Pasuk. Pasuk says, "Vis makartem shom lo yivecha." You will sell yourself there, or you'll try to sell yourself there to your enemies. Rashi says, "Atem mevakshim liyes nimkorim lahem lavodim v'lishvachas," that you will seek to be sold. You will try to sell yourself for avodim v'shvachas. What's meant? It means they're going to try to sell themselves. They're not going to be sold through others, nor as that you want to sell yourself. Because Rashi is masbir b'dibur shel achar zeh, as Rashi explains in the following dibur, that they want to sell themselves. But this is surprising. How could they be selling themselves when they were just in captivity? This is in contradiction to them. Rashi just explained that they're being led to Egypt in captivity, and therefore so how were they able to sell themselves? No, they can only be sold to other people because they are captives. So what does it say? They're trying to sell themselves. Move on. Also, is not understood. Parvos is their pasuk takemedai. Why does actually the pasuk emphasize and teach us this idea? Is makartem, that you want to sell yourself, not through others. The is as the conclusion is anyways that you're not going. There's nobody going to buy. So leave them. Because they are going to decree upon you to be killed and destroyed. So it doesn't seem to make a difference who is selling them. So why do we have to emphasize they will be trying to sell themselves? But the explanation is Baal, as the other prat is Moisif in their Toichoch, since every detail adds a additional rebuke, and by itself, a matter by itself can now let him to the Rashi. So therefore, Rashi learns as the pasuk that this pasuk is not talking about the sale through those that are leading the Jews in the captivity. That's not such a great review. This is not something new. Nor as the matziv but it's going to be so difficult. This situation in the shivya, in the captivity, is going to be so difficult. Biz as aleph atem evakshim liyis nimkorim lahem lavodim lushvachas. In other words, it's going to be so difficult that irvet velm ubemela zuchon, you're going to look for yourself a lane to You'd rather want to be a servant and a maidservant and a servant rather than being in captivity. By begging and to convince those who took you to captivity, allow us to sell ourselves. They wanted to go even to the enemies. This also adds additional explanation that Rashi. So Rashi says, because they will decree for you to be killed and destroyed. Based on the above, we could have said, as nobody's going to buy, is nor their oisfir from their frir. This is just the conclusion, the summation of the previous review. Makartem, you'll try as you will sich verkaufen. So the bitter matzav, there's such a bitter situation that you want to sell yourself. So ivecha to the enemy, so therefore, and that means that you remain in your privileged state, which is what? Be back captives. So you're captive. This situation is so difficult that you're begging the captives to sell yourself for slaves to even to the enemy. So the Rashi cautions and says, that also here is nit nor the nitgute to itself from vismakartem goyer. Not only do we have the bad results from vismakartem, but we have an additional rebuke. That's not related to being sold and wanting to be sold. As why is it not gonna buy? Not just so you go back to the shvuim, but it's to them because they will decree upon you to be killed and destroyed. That's the ultimate teichocha on the river, and therefore is thus their seeing for the ganze teichocha. This becomes the end of the entire rebuke. Oisches. We get freer in Sif Aleph is Rashi Baramas b'yene shel Torah. So Rashi hints in the wine of Torah, the deeper meaning that Rashi possesses in his commentary. How these words of rebuke are in the inner, they are actually great matters. The kavona for the techocha is what is the goal of this rebuke? Is as durch them soll Yidden zukommen zu Iluf und Tshuva, that the Yidden should reach the level, the greatness of Tshuva. The Pasuk sagt, the Pasuk says this, when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse, so you put it to your hearts, you return to God your God. So we can say as the Riber is besiyum from the choisem of the techocha, in the end and the conclusion of the techocha, this idea that this is all for the Hashavta, the Shem Alekecha. The Kavanah from the Techocha, the intent of this rebuke, the Ilu was vert, and this me, and also the elevation that becomes idea Tshuva through Tshuva. The Maila from Tshuva is what's the greatness of Teshuva is with the Gemara Zok, as the Gemara states. Tshuva is great because the intentional sins turn around and become merits. That means that there is a new category, a specific singled out category in merits. Even a complete tzaddik doesn't have that level of zechuyas that were turned around from Averis, from his doinus. What does it mean in the Inyan? Was fallen up. Also, the sparks of Kedusha that fall down. Durch these doinus in Gimel Klippas at Meyas, they through the sins, they descend into the three impure Klippas. They are also become merits. As opposed to a tzaddik with his service, can normal in the tzutzes, in the dvarim amatori. We can only sort out those sparks which are in permissible items. Was nemezich from klipas noiga that come from klipas noiga, but not gimel klipas at meyas. But saying about shuvas when the zudoinus, which is klipas at meyas, turns over to zochis. Bald as the nitzutzis the kedusha, since the sparks of kedusha was given in gimel klipas at meyas, they find themselves in the three impure klippas. They have descended, they fell very low. The mata low, very, very low. And the river is the fungu from move on. From that we also understand as a sherish in Kedusha is that their root in Kedusha is very high. The fact that they fall so low means they come from very high. Hecher with the sherish and they're higher than the root of the sparks. Shenoflu in Klippas Noiga just fell down into the Klippas Noiga. The klal hayadu as the known rule. What's higher falls further down. And the far b'shasim is mevarer mahapech odin tzutz kedusha. When you sort out and you turn these sparks to kedusha, but nimshach hanorel in yeser, it extends to a more supreme, superior light, much greater light. Those is the pirush hapanimi in pasuk, and this is the inner meaning of the verse. Ve'shiv Hashem mitzrayim gomer. Hashem returned you to Mitzrayim as the Kavon and the Allah Divrei HaToichocha. The intent of all these words of rebuke is ongedaited in Zersim V'choisem, is pointed out is emphasized in their end and the conclusion. Be'eshivcha means Meloshen Tshuva. Hashem will bring you back. Make to Tshuva, zu bringen zu Ilui von Tshuva. He will bring you to the elevation of Tshuva. Because the Ilui is Merumez in Hamshcha Kosuv. The advantage is hinted in the flow in the pasuk. Aleph, number one, Vismakartem Shom Lo'evechem Lavodim L'Shvachas. That you will be from the level from Shom, as Bechinas Shom, Okoima Klippas, which is Shom represents Klippas, and Oivecha is Memevarer the Nitzutzis Kedusha. So you are going to sort out these sparks of Kedusha in being sold there Oivecha to be able to elevate it. Beis, und durch them, vein koine, and not buyer, the Tzvei Perushim is ein mazel li Yisrael, that the ayin is the mazel of Yisrael. Ayin is koine. Ayin koine is the amshocha v'gilu from bechinas ayin, that you bring a level of ayin. Vos is hecher from bechinas koine. Ayin koine. Kedu as koine is ba'ilum ha'atzilus. The word koine, that David said that koine hakoil, koine is the word of atzilus. Kedu b'firish baruch koinech. Und ayin is hecher for atzilus. So that's his ein koine, higher than koine. Those alts were durchgetan durch Avodas HaTshuva. This is all accomplished through the Avodas HaTshuva. That's in them is Rashi being a so in the Yanish that Rashi adds noch a mer pnimis de kenyan, a more inner idea. Bald as Eden sein nach Chelek kal mimal mamish, since the Eden are a portion from Hashem mamish, kem and nitzog, we can't say as the ganze kavona say that the entire intent of the descent of the rebuke is not to leave them ilui only because of the elevation. Those vert giton in the nitzutzes that is accomplished in the sparks, not as is but it's also and mainly to leave them ilu was vert giton in the gufa is because the advantage, the elevation that takes place in the in themselves. Do as it's known as tshuva poiled an aliyah shalei be'erech, that tshuva impacts an unlimited, an unmeasurable elevation, need not in their chefza, not only in the object, in Tzutzis Kedusha, the sparks of Kedusha, but also in the person, in the proteli is Rashi Mevayer, and the elevations, the details of that elevation. Rashi explains in Pirush, Oiveis Makartem Goimer Vein Koid. Is Makartem Shom Loivecha Lavodim L'Shvochem. Atem Evakshim Liyis Nimkorim. Rashi explains that you wish to be sold. That Ilu in Avodas HaTshuva, the advantage of Tshuva is was durch them werder id an Eved LaHashem. He becomes a slave to Hashem. The Maila von Eved besteht in them. So what does it consist of? In them was atem mivakshim lisn korim. You are the ones, smakartem, you are the ones that are pushing to want to be sold. This is avodah with your own strength. This is need with the avodah from bechinas bonim. It's not like the service of bonim avodah satzadikim. Their service and their connection tied to godliness is a teva benafshim. It's a nature in their soul. This that they sense godliness. The tzadikim, the righteous, who haven't sinned. The reason why are they drawn to godliness in their service? Mainly it doesn't come because of their effort and their work, nor mitzad elokus m'mayla, that comes from elokus above. That's by tzaddikim. As opposed to the work of Baal Tshuva, was Begolu, he's like from elokus, and a revealed way he was far from godliness. Is the avodah nit mitzad gilu milmayla? Then the service is not because of revelation from above mitzad elokus, because godliness. The far was filled the rina gishmak, because he feels it's tasty, he likes it, and him tzitzut on the avodah. That's not why that he is pulled. He wants to do the avodah. Adarabah, the contrary. This is God hepech. Right now, it goes against his nature. But he worked himself out. He changed himself around with his own strength. And from himself, he's drawn to godliness. You want to be sold to Hashem. This is the main service in the Avodas Hashem. Similar to a slave as tut sein arbeit, who does his work, nit mitzad dem hergesh ha'odin, not because he senses the master, but the herzchavim that he senses. Adrab, as his hepech tivai, it's against his nature. Nor git sich iber zu dienen ha'odin mit seinem eigenem koach kabbalah, but he devotes himself to serve his master with his own strength and the accepting of the yoke. So that's the deeper meaning. Vismakartem Atem mevakshim lis nimkorim that it's avodah b'koichatzmei, the avodah hatshuva, the avodah b'al tshuva. Yod al derech zeh is Rashi megale in the pirush from vein koine that ki yigzor alecho hereg v'kiloyin, that decreed upon you hereg v'kiloyin an Indian naili yoser was is in Eden durch avodah tshuva. That is a very great, even greater aspect that a yid becomes through the avodah tshuva. The pirush b'nimi von hereg v'kiloyin is, what does it mean to be killed and expired? That while you're at life in this physical world, steht in atnu von hereg, he is standing in a mode of hereg, killed, which means benegeya seine taivis und sein over, as far as his desires and his past. Killed atnua, it is a move from ois welt, no more world. And with a expiration, kol sonafshi, his soul expires. He kills the gashmis and his kola to elikus. His soul goes out to klois and godliness, to godliness. Does haste as be'eis gefin sich in elam haza and the neshama beguf. While he is in this world, a soul and a body. He reaches such a level, the neshama, which the soul reaches when it leaves the body, while he's in the body. The pirush from Chassidus in the Maimer Mishnah, similar to the interpretation of Chassidus in the saying of the Mishnah, Ben Meya Shono, 100 years kilu meiz v'avru bottom in oilam, as if he died and he is past and his bottle is no longer in the world. As b'shas ayid, so what do we explain? As ayid, how by the madrege for Meya Shona, when he holds by the level of Meya Shona 100 years, hot ala Meya darges shonis, he has all 100 different levels. Hot mevara given Allah as a kechas nefesh, he already sorted out all 10 powers of the soul. But the other in his kol fanesa, each one is included 10, so 10 times 10 is 100. So that's the men Meya. He's an over bottle min ha'olam. He is past and he is negated from the world. He's in ganzen Hecher from Welt. He's entire higher than the world. It's as if he died. So to the extent that also here below, he's able to see godliness. Nobody, a man cannot see Hashem and live. So he says, during the lifetime, they can't see Hashem, but they can see him during their passing. So when he comes to the level of Meya, that he's bottled, the baldo, but it is Ki'ilu, Meiz, V'ovar, bottom in Ha'olam, since it's as if he died and he's passed from the world. Zetter Eich beim Leben, so also while he's alive, the Shmosi Begufa, the Neshama is in his body. Those was Misos and Roim, that they can see by Misa, that they can see during the death. At that point, that Yirani Ha'odam, V'choy, because of this place is not during his lifetime. That's the meaning of Kilu Meis, Ben Meya, once he worked through that level, so he reaches that high level. Kedalef, the emes is doch, the truth is, though, as nit nor the Teichach Gufa is to live in Iluf and Tshuva, that not only is the rebuke itself for the advantage of Tshuva, but also the cause that brought about the rebuke is to live in Tachlis from Tshuva, is because of the person of Tshuva. There's haste, which means, although in a revealed way that comes because of the sin, that Jews are doing from their own choice, is the free choice, but in an inner way, and this itself is a matter that comes from above. The Rebbe brings in the matzav, Hashem brings Jews to the situation so that they should come to this greatness level of tshuva. This is also hinted in the beginning of the verse. Hashem will bring you back. Hashem told you you're not going to be there, and Hashem brings you back there. Also this, that Yidden are going in the road which is prohibited in Derech was the Rebbe hat gesagt on the path that Hashem said Lo you should not see it again is bepnimis verbunden mit an hogem maila. So in the inner way it's connected with the conduct from above. By Shivcha Hashem returns you. But the kavana to their haven, knock them to Eden to tshuva. That's the intent to raise. Hashem brings you up, brings you to the Averis so that you can raise you later on to the level of tshuva. This is Rashi teaches. This is also Rashi translates by Niyos b'shivya, as the Yerida from Eden in Mitzrayim, that the descent of Eden in Mitzrayim, the Mitzorim, Gvulim, Be'elim, Ve'ester, those are the boundaries and the limitations and the blockages and the obscure. Is need bertzoyne from them Eden. That's not the Eden's, but Narsis b'shivya there is in captivity. The Sfirtim, the Eibishter Bal Korchei, that is being led by Hashem against His will, with the kavone, with the intent. So they're feeling him to be from tshuva to lead him to the greatest of tshuva. You base apikolanal based on the above it. When I understand those Rashi's mefarish, but aniyos he says bisfinos. Aniyos means both. Those is need not a pirush from word aniyos. It's not only explaining what the word aniyos. Aniyos means both. Not the mit is Rashi echvaramis. Rashi also hid as loiten prim is the ketochem pasuk that according to the inner meaning of this verse was Rashi gitar is b'yenishal Torah, which Rashi represents in the Yenishal Torah, is done nageya der inyan for aniyos. Here it's important to have the idea of aniyos as it's translated as vergitay sfinas, as we interpret it as sfinas. The beer was aniyos is in yonam to make him that dimension. Ananiya is something that protects the person based from durgin the vasam. When they need to go through the waters from a yam or the taich of an ocean or a river, al derech zein ruchmas in yonam. Similar is in the spiritual matters. Shas and neshama kum terap lamata, when the soul descends below in the mayim hazedonim, in the turbulent waters. Punolam haze davze hob madavra megan needs to have something to protect us. Is only dverim fatrunken that it shouldn't get drowned. God forbid. In these waters. And das is durch Sfinas. That comes through Sfinas. The Avodah from Torah Mitzvahs, that's the Avodah Torah Mitzvahs, that's the protection. Them zane dort zwei Madreges. So we have two levels. Aleph on these. The nomen von Dover Amegin in Lashon HaKodesh. That's the Lashon HaKodesh. Das says the Avodah from Torah Mitzvahs. It's the Lashon Kodesh name. That's the service of Torah Mitzvahs with those Verd Giton in their Welt of the Kedusha as it's being performed and done in the world of Kedusha. Base Finas, the nomen is Lashon from Targum. That's the Lashon of a Targum. The says has come up in their Welt from Targum as it descends into the world of Targum from the Ayin Umas, from the 70 nations, which we need to sort out and turn over to Kedusha. But that's the Avodah from Tshuva. That's the Avodah of Tshuva. This Deinus of Zochris. So Rashi. So because we want to make the intentional sin into merit. So Rashi therefore says, as Ibal does the since we're discussing about fixing a situation from the sin because of sins, but on the route that I told you should not see it again, which means this is a path which a person does not belong, and it's a descent that so therefore we need to have this type of service. Protection was state need not from Oniyas, not only in Hebrew Oniyas, but also in Sfinis. Gimel v'yirotzen, by starting the wine of Torah, the inner parts of Torah, for the Divrei Techocha, from the words of rebuke, so Bekor of Mamash Nesgalaven. So very soon should be revealed the Pnimis Dikir for the Divrei Techocha, the inner good of the words of rebuke, but in the apparent and revealed good, as everybody can see with the eyes of flesh, in good that is revealed and is visible. In children, life, and a wide way of sustenance, in the alat techochas, and all the rebukes will come on your enemies and those who hate you that have pursued you. All every Jew amongst all of Klal Yisrael. But nichta v'nechtam is written and sealed written as good seal shon teva mesuka for a good and sweet year v'teva nira v'anigla in the good that is visible and revealed. Bis to the bracha close to the general blessing. Bis Mashiach tzidkenu, the coming of a righteous Mashiach made of Yameinu mamish quickly in our day. Actually, Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Tavo Tavshin Lamed Dalet.